Officer Maria Santos had been patrolling the quiet streets of Riverside County for over 8 years, but she had never seen anything quite like what awaited her on that cold Tuesday morning in November. The radio crackled to life as she drove her patrol car down the winding country road. Her faithful German Shepherd partner Rex, sitting alert in the back seat. Unit 47. We have reports of suspicious activity near the old Miller farm on Route 15. Multiple witnesses claim they heard dogs barking and saw a vehicle dumping something near the abandoned barn. Can you investigate? Maria picked up her radio and responded quickly. Unit 47 responding. Out of 5 minutes. She glanced back at Rex, whose ears had perked up at the mention of dogs. The intelligent K-9 officer seemed to sense that this call would be different from their usual routine of traffic stops and neighborhood patrols. As they approached the Miller farm, Maria could see why the property had been abandoned for years. The old white farmhouse stood empty with broken windows and peeling paint. Weeds had grown tall around the foundation, and the red barn in the distance looked ready to collapse. But it was the sound that caught her attention first, a chorus of desperate barking and whimpering coming from somewhere behind the barn. Maria parked the patrol car and stepped out into the crisp morning air. Rex immediately began whining and pawing at his kennel door, his nose working overtime as he caught scents that clearly distressed him. Easy, boy, Maria said as she opened the door and attached his leash. Let's see what we're dealing with here. The moment Rex's paws hit the ground, he pulled Maria toward the source of the barking. His training kicked in as he led her around the barn to a small clearing where Maria's heart nearly broke at what she discovered. 9 dogs of various breeds and sizes were scattered across the muddy ground, some huddled together for warmth, others lying motionless in makeshift cardboard boxes that had been torn apart by the morning rain. Oh my God, Maria whispered, pulling out her radio with shaking hands. Dispatch, this is Unit 47. I need animal control and emergency veterinary services at the Miller farm immediately. We have multiple dogs in critical condition. The largest dog, a golden retriever mix, lifted his head weakly as Maria approached. His ribs were clearly visible through his matted fur, and his eyes held a mixture of fear and desperate hope. Rex whined softly and looked up at Maria, as if asking permission to help his fellow canines. Maria quickly assessed the situation. 3 of the smaller dogs appeared to be puppies, no more than a few months old, shivering in a soggy cardboard box that offered no protection from the elements. A black Labrador lay on her side, breathing heavily, her swollen belly indicating she was pregnant. 2 mixed-breed dogs huddled together near an old tire, their fur so dirty and matted that Maria couldn't determine their original colors. Stay back, Rex, Maria commanded gently as she approached the dogs. Years of experience had taught her that frightened animals could be unpredictable, even when they desperately needed help. She spoke in soft, soothing tones as she moved closer. It's okay, babies. Help is coming. You're safe now. The pregnant Labrador tried to lift her head but was too weak to manage more than a slight movement of her ears. One of the puppies let out a pitiful whimper that seemed to cut through the morning air like a knife. Maria felt anger rising in her chest as she thought about the kind of person who could abandon helpless animals in such a cruel way. She began documenting the scene with her camera, taking photos of each dog and the surrounding area for evidence. The abandoned dogs showed clear signs of neglect and possible abuse. Several had visible injuries, cuts, what appeared to be old bite marks, and patches of missing fur that suggested untreated skin conditions. As Maria worked, Rex remained perfectly still beside her, his training overriding his obvious desire to comfort the suffering animals. She could see the tension in his body and knew that her partner was struggling with what they had discovered. Canine officers were trained to detect drugs, track suspects, and protect their human partners, but Rex had always shown an extraordinary gentleness with other animals. Dispatch, what's the ETA on animal control? Maria radioed, trying to keep the emotion out of her voice. Unit 47, animal control is 20 minutes out. Dr. Peterson from the emergency vet clinic is also en route. 20 minutes felt like an eternity as Maria looked at the deteriorating condition of some of the dogs. She made the decision to start providing basic first aid within her capabilities. From her patrol car, she retrieved an emergency blanket and a water bottle. Carefully, she approached the puppies first, wrapping them gently in the blanket to provide some warmth. The golden retriever mix allowed her to pour small amounts of water into her cupped hand, which he lapped up gratefully. His tail made a weak attempt to wag, and Maria felt a small surge of hope. If these dogs could trust humans again after what they had been through, perhaps there was a chance for their recovery. Rex suddenly alerted to something behind them, his ears standing straight up and his body tensing. Maria turned to see a small figure emerging from the tree line about 50 yards away. It was a little girl, maybe 8 or 9 years old, with long brown hair and wearing a bright red jacket that was too big for her small frame. The child stopped when she saw the police car and the officer, but instead of running away, she began walking toward them with determination. Maria stood up slowly, keeping her voice calm and friendly. "Hi there, sweetie. I'm Officer Santos. Are you okay? Do you live around here?" The little girl nodded and pointed toward a small house barely visible through the trees. "I'm Emma. I live over there with my grandma. I've been watching the dogs since yesterday morning when the bad man left them here." Maria's heart raced. This child might be their only witness to what had happened. More importantly, she had been watching over these abandoned animals, trying to protect them in her own way. As Emma came closer, Maria could see that the little girl's jacket and shoes were muddy, and she carried a small backpack that looked suspiciously heavy. "Emma, that was very brave of you to watch over the dogs," Maria said gently. "Can you tell me what you saw yesterday?" Emma's eyes filled with tears as she looked at the suffering dogs, but she stood straighter and began to tell her story with the seriousness of someone much older than her 9 years. "Yesterday morning I was helping Grandma hang laundry on the line when I heard this loud truck coming down the road. It was really rusty and made lots of noise." Maria knelt down to Emma's level, making sure not to seem intimidating while Rex sat patiently beside them. "What happened next, Emma? Take your time." "The truck stopped right here by the barn and this mean-looking man got out. He had a baseball cap pulled down low, and he kept looking around like he didn't want anyone to see him. He opened the back of his truck and started pulling out these poor dogs one by one." Emma's voice began to shake as she continued. "Some of them couldn't even walk properly. He just dropped them on the ground like they were trash." The little girl reached into her backpack and pulled out a small notebook with a unicorn on the cover. "I wrote down everything I could remember. Grandma taught me to always pay attention to details because they matter." She flipped through pages covered in careful childish handwriting. The truck was dark blue, maybe black, with a dent on the left side. The license plate started with the letters GR, but I couldn't see the numbers from where I was hiding. Maria felt a surge of admiration for this brave child. "Emma, you did exactly the right thing by writing this down. This information is going to help us catch the person who did this. Did you see anything else about the man?" Emma nodded enthusiastically. "He was tall, maybe as tall as my dad, and he had on dirty work boots. Oh, and he had a tattoo on his arm. It looked like a snake or something curvy. When he finished dumping all the dogs, he threw down some old blankets and a bag of something, then got back in his truck and drove away really fast." As Emma spoke, Maria noticed that the child kept glancing anxiously at the dogs, particularly the 3 puppies who were still shivering despite the emergency blanket. It was clear that Emma had formed an emotional connection with these animals during her overnight vigil. "Emma, you mentioned you've been watching the dogs since yesterday. What exactly did you do?" The little girl's cheeks flushed slightly as if she might be in trouble. "Well, after the bad man left, I waited until I was sure he wasn't coming back. Then I snuck over here to see if the dogs were okay. They were so scared and hungry." She reached into her backpack again and pulled out several items that made Maria's heart swell with emotion. There were 2 small plastic containers that had once held yogurt, now being used as water bowls. A Ziploc bag contained what appeared to be torn-up pieces of sandwich meat and some dry cereal. Emma also had a small flashlight, a torn towel, and a container of what looked like leftover chicken from dinner. I brought them food from my lunch and some leftover chicken that Grandma said I could have. I know it wasn't much, but I didn't want them to starve. The puppies were crying so much and the big yellow dog looked so sad. Emma pointed to the golden retriever mix, who had managed to lift his head again at the sound of her voice. "I stayed here until it got dark. Then Grandma made me come home. But I came back really early this morning before school to check on them again. I was so worried about them all night." Emma's voice cracked with emotion. "I wanted to take them all home, but Grandma says we can't afford to take care of more animals. We already have Mr. Whiskers, our old cat." Maria was amazed by the compassion and maturity this child had shown. While most people would have simply called authorities and waited, Emma had taken personal responsibility for the welfare of these abandoned animals. "Emma, what you did was incredibly kind and helpful. These dogs are alive right now partly because of your care. Rex, who had been quietly observing the conversation, suddenly stood up and walked slowly toward Emma. The well-trained K-9 officer had apparently decided that this little girl was someone special. He sat down directly in front of her and offered his paw, which Emma took gently in her small hands. "He's beautiful," Emma whispered, carefully petting Rex's head. "Is he here to help the other dogs too?" "Rex is my partner, and yes, he's here to help in any way he can. He's been very concerned about these dogs since we arrived." Maria watched as Rex seemed to relax for the first time since discovering the abandoned animals. There was something about Emma's gentle nature that had an immediate calming effect on him. In the distance, Maria could hear the sound of approaching vehicles. Animal control and the emergency veterinarian were finally arriving. She knew that the next few hours would be critical for determining which of these dogs could be saved and which might be too far gone to help. "Emma, the veterinarian is almost here, and some people who specialize in helping animals. Would you like to stay and help explain to them what you observed about each dog's condition? Your information could be very valuable." Emma's eyes lit up with hope. "Really? I can help?" "I noticed that the spotted dog over there has been limping, and the black dog with the big belly hasn't moved much at all. And those 3 babies in the box haven't stopped shivering even when I tried to keep them warm." As the animal control truck and veterinary van pulled up to the farm, Maria put a gentle hand on Emma's shoulder. "Emma, I want you to know that what you did here was heroic. You saw animals in need and you didn't just feel bad about it. You took action to help them. That takes real courage." The little girl beamed at the praise, but her attention immediately returned to the dogs as strangers began approaching with medical equipment and carriers. "Will they be okay? Will someone find them good homes?" Maria looked at the team of professionals now surrounding the abandoned animals and felt a renewed sense of hope. "I think they have a much better chance now thanks to you. And Emma, I'm going to make sure the right people know exactly how brave and caring you've been." Dr. Peterson, the emergency veterinarian, approached them with a warm smile. "You must be the young lady who's been taking care of these animals." "I'm Dr. Peterson. I understand you have some important information about their condition." Emma stood up straighter and pulled out her unicorn notebook again, ready to share everything she had observed with the people who could help save the dogs she had spent the night worrying about. Dr. Peterson knelt down beside Emma, his kind eyes focusing intently on the little girl as she opened her notebook. The veterinarian had been treating animals for over 15 years, but he was genuinely impressed by the detailed observations this child had made during her vigil with the abandoned dogs. "Tell me what you noticed about each dog." "Emma, sometimes the people who spend the most time with animals see things that we might miss during a quick examination," Dr. Peterson said encouragingly. Emma flipped to a page covered with careful drawings and notes. "The big yellow dog, I called him Sonny because of his color. He was the first one to trust me. He drank a lot of water when I brought it, but he had trouble standing up. His back leg seemed really shaky." Dr. Peterson nodded as he looked over at the golden retriever mix, who was now being gently examined by one of the animal control officers. "That's a very good observation, Emma. Weakness in the back legs can indicate several different health issues. What else did you notice?" "The black dog with the big belly. I think she might be going to have puppies soon. She was breathing really hard and seemed like she was in pain. She tried to crawl closer to the barn, like she was looking for a safe place." Emma's voice became more animated as she realized the adults were taking her observations seriously. "And those 3 little ones in the box? They're just babies. They kept crying for their mama, but I don't think she's here. I tried to keep them warm, but they wouldn't eat much of the food I brought. They seemed really scared." Maria watched as the animal control team worked efficiently to stabilize each dog for transport. Rex remained close to Emma, as if he had appointed himself her protector during this emotional situation. The K-9 officer seemed to understand that this little girl had formed deep connections with these animals over the past day and night. Dr. Peterson continued questioning Emma about her observations while simultaneously directing his team in their rescue efforts. "Emma, did you notice if any of the dogs seemed to have injuries beyond just being hungry and cold?" Emma consulted her notebook again. "The brown and white spotted dog, I called her Patches. She was holding up her front paw a lot. And there's a really skinny dog over by the tire who has some kind of sores on his back. They looked red and angry." She paused, looking worried. "Are they going to be okay?" "I tried so hard to help them, but I didn't know what else to do. Emma, you did more for these animals than many adults would have done, Dr. Peterson assured her. Your observations are helping us prioritize which dogs need the most urgent care. The pregnant dog you mentioned, we're going to get her to the clinic immediately. She may need emergency surgery to save both her and her puppies. As the medical team worked, Emma continued to provide detailed information about each animal's behavior and condition. She had even given names to all 9 dogs during her overnight watch, which helped the rescue team keep track of individuals and their specific needs. The 2 dogs huddled together by the tire. I called them Salt and Pepper because one is light-colored and one is dark. They wouldn't let me get very close, but they shared the water I put out. Salt, the lighter one, kept licking Pepper's ears like she was trying to comfort him. Maria realized that Emma's emotional investment in these animals went far beyond simple compassion. The child had created individual relationships with each dog, studying their personalities and needs with the dedication of a trained observer. It was becoming clear that Emma possessed a natural gift for understanding and connecting with animals. Rex suddenly stood up and walked over to where the animal control officers were preparing to load the pregnant Labrador into a transport carrier. The canine officer whined softly and looked back at Emma, then at Maria as if asking for permission to do something. What is it, boy? Maria asked, following Rex's gaze. Emma seemed to understand Rex's concern immediately. He wants to help her, doesn't he? The black dog. I called her Hope because I kept hoping she would be okay. She's the one I was most worried about. Dr. Peterson overheard the conversation and looked up from his examination. The pregnant female is in critical condition. She's severely dehydrated and malnourished, and I suspect she may have complications with her pregnancy. We need to get her to the surgical suite immediately. Can Rex ride with her? Emma asked earnestly. I think it would help her feel less scared. He's such a gentle dog, and she seemed to calm down a little when he was near her earlier. Maria looked at Dr. Peterson questioningly. It was an unusual request, but she had seen Rex's therapeutic effect on traumatized animals before. Rex has had some therapy dog training as part of his K9 certification. If it wouldn't interfere with medical treatment, Dr. Peterson considered the request for a moment, then nodded. Actually, that's not a bad idea. Stress can complicate delivery, and if your K9 partner has a calming presence, it might help. We can arrange for him to stay nearby during transport and initial treatment. Emma's face lit up with relief and gratitude. Thank you. I know Hope will feel better knowing someone is watching over her. She looked up at Maria with sudden concern. But what about the others? What happens to them now? All 9 dogs are going to the emergency veterinary clinic for immediate treatment, Dr. Peterson explained. Once they're stabilized, they'll be transferred to the county animal shelter, where they'll receive ongoing care and rehabilitation. The goal is to eventually find loving homes for all of them. Emma's expression became thoughtful and determined. Officer Santos, I want to visit them. I know I'm just a kid, but these dogs know me now. I think it would help them if they could see a familiar face while they're getting better. Maria felt her heart swell with admiration for this remarkable child. Emma, I think that's a wonderful idea. I'll speak with your grandmother and see if we can arrange for you to volunteer at the shelter. Many animal rescue organizations have programs for young volunteers. As the first transport vehicle prepared to leave with the most critical dogs, including Hope the pregnant Labrador, Emma ran over to the carrier. She knelt down and spoke softly through the mesh door. It's going to be okay, Hope. These people are going to take really good care of you and your babies. Rex is going to ride with you so you won't be alone. The exhausted dog managed to lift her head slightly and made eye contact with Emma, her tail giving the faintest wag. It was a moment that brought tears to the eyes of every adult present. A child and an abandoned animal sharing a connection that transcended their desperate circumstances. Rex approached the carrier and lay down beside it, his presence immediately seeming to calm the pregnant dog. Dr. Peterson nodded approvingly. I think your K9 partner has found a new temporary assignment, Officer Santos. As the vehicles began to pull away from the Miller farm, Emma stood beside Maria and watched until they disappeared from view. The clearing that had been filled with suffering animals an hour ago now looked empty and peaceful. But Emma's mind was clearly focused on the difficult journey ahead for her 9 new friends. 3 days later, Maria received a call that made her heart race with excitement and relief. Dr. Peterson's voice on the other end of the line carried news that she couldn't wait to share with Emma. Officer Santos, I wanted to give you an update on our 9 rescued dogs. First, the amazing news. Hope delivered 4 healthy puppies yesterday evening. Mother and babies are all doing well, thanks in large part to the excellent care your canine partner provided during those critical first hours. Maria felt tears of joy welling up in her eyes. That's incredible news, Dr. Peterson. How are the other dogs doing? Better than we initially hoped. The golden retriever mix that Emma called Sonny has responded beautifully to treatment. His weakness was primarily due to severe malnutrition, but with proper nutrition and care, he's already showing significant improvement. The 3 puppies that were found in the cardboard box are thriving under round-the-clock care from our nursing staff. Dr. Peterson continued with updates on each dog, and Maria carefully wrote down every detail to share with Emma. The spotted dog with the injured paw had a simple fracture that was healing well with a cast. The 2 bonded dogs that Emma had named Salt and Pepper were inseparable and would need to be adopted together, but their health was improving daily. Dr. Peterson, there's something I need to tell you. That little girl Emma hasn't stopped asking about the dog since that morning. She's convinced her grandmother to let her volunteer at the shelter, and I think her presence would be incredibly beneficial for the animal's recovery. Officer Santos, I was hoping you'd say that. We've seen remarkable results when animals have consistent human contact during their rehabilitation, especially with someone they've already bonded with. Emma's observations were so detailed and accurate that our staff has been using her notes to understand each dog's personality and needs. After ending the call with Dr. Peterson, Maria immediately drove to Emma's house to share the good news. She found the little girl sitting on the front porch with her grandmother, a kind-looking woman in her 70s who had clearly raised Emma to be compassionate and responsible. "Emma, I have wonderful news about your dogs," Maria called out as she approached the house. Emma jumped up from her seat and ran toward the patrol car, her eyes bright with anticipation. "Are they okay? Did Hope have her babies? Is Sonny feeling better?" Maria laughed at Emma's enthusiasm and spent the next 20 minutes sharing every detail of Dr. Peterson's update. Emma listened intently, asking thoughtful questions about each dog's condition and treatment plan. "Grandma, can we go visit them today, please?" Emma pleaded, turning to the elderly woman who had been quietly listening to the conversation. Emma's grandmother, who introduced herself as Mrs. Chen, smiled warmly at Maria. "Officer Santos, I want to thank you for encouraging Emma's compassion. Since that morning at the farm, she's talked about nothing but those dogs. She's been researching animal care on my old computer and has even started saving her allowance to buy dog toys. Mrs. Chen, I have to tell you that Emma's actions that day were truly heroic. Her quick thinking and detailed observations may have saved several of those dogs' lives. Dr. Peterson specifically requested that Emma be allowed to volunteer at the rehabilitation center." Mrs. Chen looked at her granddaughter with obvious pride. Emma has always had a special connection with animals. Her parents used to joke that she could communicate with any creature she met. If volunteering at the shelter would help both Emma and the dogs, then I think it's a wonderful idea. An hour later, Maria found herself driving Emma and Mrs. Chen to the Veterinary Rehabilitation Center. Emma clutched her unicorn notebook and a small bag containing homemade dog treats that she and her grandmother had baked the night before. "I looked up recipes online for dogs that are recovering from malnutrition," Emma explained earnestly. "These have pumpkin and rice, which are supposed to be gentle on their stomachs." When they arrived at the facility, Dr. Peterson personally greeted them and led them on a tour of the rehabilitation area. Emma's eyes grew wide as she saw the clean, comfortable kennels and the dedicated staff members who were caring for animals in various stages of recovery. "Emma, your 9 friends are doing so well that we've been able to move them from the critical care unit to our general rehabilitation area. Would you like to see them?" Emma nodded eagerly, and Maria watched as the child's face transformed with joy when they entered the large, sunny room where the dogs were housed. Sonny, the golden retriever mix, immediately recognized Emma and began wagging his tail vigorously. His coat was clean and shiny now, and he had clearly gained weight. "Sonny, you look so much better," Emma exclaimed, kneeling down as Dr. Peterson opened the kennel door. The dog approached her cautiously at first, then seemed to remember their connection from the farm. Within moments, he was gently pressing against Emma's side, seeking the comfort of familiar human contact. One by one, Emma visited each of her rescued friends. Salt and Pepper, the bonded pair, had been housed together, and both showed obvious excitement at seeing her again. The 3 puppies that had been found in the cardboard box were now healthy, playful balls of fur who tumbled over each other trying to get Emma's attention. But it was the visit with Hope and her 4 newborn puppies that brought tears to everyone's eyes. The new mother looked up at Emma with recognition and gratitude, her tail wagging gently as she carefully watched over her tiny babies. Emma, Hope has been looking toward the door every time someone enters, as if she's been waiting for someone specific, Dr. Peterson observed. I think she's been waiting for you. Emma sat quietly beside Hope's kennel, speaking in soft, soothing tones to the new mother and her puppies. You did such a good job, Hope. Your babies are beautiful. I'm so proud of you for being such a brave mama. Rex, who had remained at the facility to continue providing comfort to Hope during her recovery, approached Emma and settled down beside her. The K-9 officer had formed his own special bond with the rescued dogs and seemed as pleased as Emma to see their progress. Dr. Peterson, I want to help take care of them until they find their forever homes, Emma announced with determination. I know I'm only 9, but I can learn whatever I need to know. These dogs trusted me when they were scared and hurt, and I want to make sure they know they're safe now. Dr. Peterson exchanged a meaningful look with Maria and Mrs. Chen. Emma, I think that's exactly what these dogs need. We have a volunteer program for young people, and I believe you would be our most dedicated volunteer. Would you be interested in coming here after school and on weekends to help with their care? Emma's answer was written all over her radiant face before she even spoke. Yes, more than anything in the world, yes. As they prepared to leave that afternoon, Emma made a promise to each of the 9 dogs. She would return the next day and every day after that until each one found a loving family. She had started this journey as a witness to cruelty, but she was determined to see it through to a happy ending for every single one of her 4-legged friends. 2 weeks into Emma's volunteer work at the rehabilitation center, something unexpected happened that would change everything. She had just finished helping to feed the morning shift of animals when Dr. Peterson approached her with a serious expression on his face. Emma, I need to talk to you about something important. We've had some interesting developments regarding the person who abandoned your 9 dogs. Emma looked up from where she was sitting with Sunny, who had become her constant companion during volunteer hours. The golden retriever mix had made such remarkable progress that he was almost ready for adoption, but Emma tried not to think about saying goodbye to him. Did you catch the bad man? Emma asked, her voice mixing hope with concern. Maria, who had been staying in close contact with the case, joined them in the rehabilitation room. Emma, your detailed observations about the truck and the man who dumped the dogs led us to investigate similar cases in neighboring counties. It turns out this wasn't an isolated incident. Dr. Peterson sat down beside Emma, his expression grave but determined. We discovered that the same person has been abandoning animals in remote locations across 3 different counties over the past 6 months. Your description of the truck and the man helped us identify a pattern that law enforcement had been tracking. Emma's eyes widened with understanding. You mean he's hurt other animals too? That's terrible. Yes, but here's where your bravery becomes even more important, Maria continued. The detective working the case needs someone who saw the perpetrator to potentially identify him. Emma, would you be willing to look at some photographs to see if you recognize the man you saw that day? Emma straightened her shoulders with the same determination she had shown throughout this entire experience. If it will help catch him and stop him from hurting more animals, then yes. I remember his face really well. Mrs. Chen, who had been quietly listening from across the room where she was helping to organize supply donations, walked over to join the conversation. Are you sure this is safe for Emma? I don't want her to be in any danger from this person. Mrs. Chen, I understand your concerns completely, Maria assured her. The identification process would be done at the police station with full security measures in place. Emma would only be looking at photographs, and the suspect is not aware that we have a witness. Dr. Peterson added, Emma, there's something else you should know. When we examined the dogs more thoroughly, we found evidence that they had been part of an illegal breeding operation. The injuries and conditions we documented suggest systematic neglect and abuse. Your testimony could help shut down this operation and save countless other animals. Emma looked down at Sunny, who was resting his head on her lap, seemingly sensing the serious nature of the conversation. She gently stroked his fur as she considered the weight of what the adults were asking her to do. If I help catch this man, will it really stop him from hurting more dogs? Emma asked quietly. It's very likely yes, Maria replied honestly. With your identification and the evidence we've gathered, we would have enough to arrest him and charge him with animal cruelty. That could mean jail time and would definitely shut down his illegal operation. Emma was quiet for several long moments, her hand continuing to comfort Sonny. Finally, she looked up with resolve in her young eyes. Then I want to do it. I can't stop thinking about all the other dogs who might be suffering right now. If I can help save them, then I have to try. Mrs. Chen reached over and squeezed her granddaughter's hand. Emma, I'm proud of your courage, but this is a big decision. Are you absolutely sure you're ready for this responsibility, Grandma? When I found these dogs that morning, I made a promise to myself that I would do everything I could to help them. This feels like part of that promise. I can't just help my 9 dogs and ignore all the others who need help too. 3 days later, Emma found herself at the police station, sitting in a comfortable interview room with Maria, her grandmother, and Detective Rodriguez, who had been investigating the multi-county animal abandonment cases. On the table in front of her was a collection of photographs showing different men who matched the general description Emma had provided. Take your time, Emma, Detective Rodriguez said kindly. Look at each photo carefully, and only speak up if you're absolutely certain you recognize someone. Emma studied each photograph with the same careful attention to detail she had shown throughout this entire experience. She examined facial features, looking for the man she had observed from her grandmother's property that terrible morning. When she reached the 6th photograph, Emma's breath caught slightly. That's him, she said quietly, pointing to the image. That's the man who dumped the dogs at the farm. Detective Rodriguez looked at the photograph and nodded. Emma, you've just identified Marcus Webb, a man we've been tracking in connection with illegal animal breeding operations in 3 counties. Your identification gives us the final piece of evidence we needed to obtain an arrest warrant. What happens now? Emma asked, looking between the detective and Maria. Now we arrest Mr. Webb and execute search warrants on his properties, Detective Rodriguez explained. Based on the evidence we've gathered, we expect to find more animals in need of rescue. Thanks to your bravery, Emma, we'll be able to save them and shut down his illegal operation permanently. Emma felt a mixture of relief and anticipation. Will there be more dogs that need help? Detective Rodriguez exchanged a meaningful look with Maria. Emma, we believe there will be, and when we rescue those animals, they're going to need the same kind of careful observation and compassionate care that you provided for your 9 dogs. Would you be interested in helping with their rehabilitation too? Emma's eyes lit up with excitement, but she looked to her grandmother for permission. Mrs. Chen smiled warmly at her granddaughter. Emma, I think you've found your calling. If Dr. Peterson and the Rehabilitation Center can use your help with more rescued animals, then I think we should say yes. There's something else, Maria added with a smile. The police department has been so impressed with your detailed observations and your dedication to animal welfare that we're creating a special volunteer position. You would be our youngest ever junior animal welfare advocate. Emma could hardly believe what she was hearing. What had started as a chance observation from her grandmother's backyard had led to her becoming an official part of the effort to protect animals in their community. Really? I could have an official job helping animals? Emma asked, her voice filled with wonder. Really? Maria confirmed. You've shown that age doesn't matter when someone has the courage and compassion to stand up for those who can't speak for themselves. As they prepared to leave the police station, Emma felt a sense of purpose that went far beyond her 9 original dogs. She was no longer just a little girl who had witnessed animal cruelty. She was now an active participant in the fight against it. The arrest of Marcus Webb led to discoveries that exceeded everyone's expectations. When police raided his property the following week, they found 37 dogs in various stages of neglect and abuse, along with evidence of the illegal breeding operation that had been operating for over 2 years. Emma stood in the rehabilitation center's main room, which had been transformed into a temporary shelter to accommodate the massive influx of rescued animals. Dr. Peterson had called in veterinarians from 3 neighboring counties to help with the medical evaluation and treatment of Webb's victims. Emma, I need you to know that what we found at Webb's property was much worse than what you witnessed at the farm, Dr. Peterson said gently. These animals have been suffering for a very long time, and their recovery is going to be more challenging than your original 9 dogs. Emma looked around at the dozens of kennels that now filled the space, each housing dogs in various conditions of physical and emotional trauma. Some were barely able to stand, while others cowered in fear at any human approach. It was heartbreaking, but Emma felt more determined than ever to help. "Dr. Peterson, I know it's going to be hard, but I want to help all of them," Emma said with conviction. "I've been reading books about animal behavior and trauma recovery. I think I can help them learn to trust people again." Over the past month, Emma had indeed thrown herself into learning everything she could about animal care and rehabilitation. Her grandmother had been amazed by Emma's dedication to studying animal psychology, nutrition, and behavior modification techniques. Maria arrived at the center with Rex, who had become an unofficial therapy dog for the rehabilitation program. The canine officer had shown such natural ability in comforting traumatized animals that Maria had begun bringing him to the center during her off-duty hours. "Emma, I have some news about the court case," Maria announced. "Marcus Webb has agreed to plead guilty to all charges in exchange for avoiding a lengthy trial. He's going to serve 3 years in prison and is permanently banned from owning or breeding animals." Emma felt a surge of satisfaction at the news, but her attention was quickly drawn to a small, trembling dog in the corner kennel who hadn't moved since arriving at the center 3 days earlier. This dog, a young border collie mix, had been found chained in Webb's basement and showed severe signs of psychological trauma. "Dr. Peterson, what about the scared one in the corner? She hasn't eaten anything since she got here," Emma observed with concern. Dr. Peterson followed Emma's gaze to the border collie mix. "That's Luna. She's one of our most challenging cases. She's physically healthy, but so psychologically damaged that she won't interact with humans at all. We're not sure if we'll be able to rehabilitate her enough for adoption." Emma studied Luna carefully, noticing details that the busy staff might have missed. "She watches everything that happens in this room, but she only relaxes when there are no people around. I think she's not just scared. She's smart enough to be analyzing whether it's safe to trust anyone." "That's a very insightful observation, Emma," Dr. Peterson agreed. "What do you think might help her?" Emma thought for a moment, then looked at Rex, who was calmly lying near several of the less traumatized dogs. "What if Rex spent time near her kennel, not trying to interact, just being a peaceful presence? Sometimes animals trust other animals before they trust people." Maria nodded approvingly. "Rex has been amazing with the other traumatized dogs. Emma, would you like to try working with Luna as a special project?" Emma's eyes lit up with excitement and determination. "Really? You'd let me try to help her specifically?" "Under supervision, yes," Dr. Peterson confirmed. "But I want you to understand that Luna may never fully recover from her trauma. Some animals carry scars that never completely heal." "I understand," Emma replied seriously. "But even if she can't be completely healed, maybe she can learn that not all humans are bad. Maybe she can have some happiness and safety. Even if it's not perfect." For the next several days, Emma implemented a careful plan to help Luna. She would sit quietly near the kennel, reading aloud from books about dogs, never making direct eye contact or attempting to touch the frightened animal. Rex would lie nearby, providing a calm, non-threatening presence. Gradually, almost imperceptibly, Luna began to show small signs of interest. Her ears would perk up slightly when Emma read stories about dogs who found loving homes. She began to watch Rex more closely, perhaps recognizing that this police dog was confident and unafraid around humans. The breakthrough came on a rainy Thursday afternoon when Emma was reading from a book about a rescue dog who became a therapy animal. Luna, who had been lying with her back to Emma's voice, slowly turned around and made brief eye contact. "Good girl, Luna," Emma whispered softly, not moving from her position. "You're so brave." Dr. Peterson, who had been observing from across the room, felt his eyes fill with tears. In all his years of veterinary practice, he had rarely seen such patient, intuitive work with a traumatized animal, especially from someone so young. Over the following weeks, Luna's progress accelerated. She began taking treats from Emma's hand, allowed brief, gentle touches, and even showed interest in simple toys. Most remarkably, she seemed to form a bond with Rex, often positioning herself near the canine officer when he visited the center. "Emma, Luna's transformation has been remarkable," Dr. Peterson told her one afternoon. "You've accomplished something that our most experienced animal behaviorists weren't sure was possible." Emma beamed with pride, but her expression quickly became thoughtful. "Dr. Peterson, I've been thinking about something. What if Luna could become a therapy dog herself? She understands what it's like to be scared and hurt. Maybe she could help other traumatized animals feel safe. Maria, who had been listening to the conversation, looked impressed by Emma's insight. Emma, that's actually a brilliant idea. Many therapy animal programs use animals who have overcome their own trauma to help others. It would require extensive training and evaluation, Dr. Peterson cautioned. But given Luna's progress and her apparent bond with Rex, it might be worth exploring. As Emma sat with Luna and Rex that afternoon, watching the once terrified dog play gently with a rope toy, she realized that her role in this story had evolved far beyond what she had ever imagined. She had started as a witness to cruelty, become a caregiver and advocate, and was now helping to create new possibilities for healing and hope. Luna, what do you think? Emma asked the border collie mix, who responded by bringing her the rope toy, the first time the dog had initiated interaction with any human. Do you want to help other scared dogs learn to trust again? Luna's tail wagged slightly, and Emma felt certain that this remarkable dog was ready to transform her painful past into a purposeful future helping others heal. The arrest of Marcus Webb led to discoveries that exceeded everyone's expectations. When police raided his property the following week, they found 37 dogs in various stages of neglect and abuse, along with evidence of the illegal breeding operation that had been operating for over 2 years. Emma stood in the rehabilitation center's main room, which had been transformed into a temporary shelter to accommodate the massive influx of rescued animals. Dr. Peterson had called in veterinarians from 3 neighboring counties to help with the medical evaluation and treatment of Webb's victims. Emma, I need you to know that what we found at Webb's property was much worse than what you witnessed at the farm. Dr. Peterson said gently, these animals have been suffering for a very long time, and their recovery is going to be more challenging than your original 9 dogs. Emma looked around at the dozens of kennels that now filled the space, each housing dogs in various conditions of physical and emotional trauma. Some were barely able to stand while others cowered in fear at any human approach. It was heartbreaking, but Emma felt more determined than ever to help. Dr. Peterson, I know it's going to be hard, but I want to help all of them, Emma said with conviction. I've been reading books about animal behavior and trauma recovery. I think I can help them learn to trust people again. Over the past month, Emma had indeed thrown herself into learning everything she could about animal care and rehabilitation. Her grandmother had been amazed by Emma's dedication to studying animal psychology, nutrition, and behavior modification techniques. Maria arrived at the center with Rex, who had become an unofficial therapy dog for the rehabilitation program. The K-9 officer had shown such natural ability in comforting traumatized animals that Maria had begun bringing him to the center during her off-duty hours. Emma, I have some news about the court case, Maria announced. Marcus Webb has agreed to plead guilty to all charges in exchange for avoiding a lengthy trial. He's going to serve 3 years in prison and is permanently banned from owning or breeding animals. Emma felt a surge of satisfaction at the news, but her attention was quickly drawn to a small, trembling dog in the corner kennel who hadn't moved since arriving at the center 3 days earlier. This dog, a young border collie mix, had been found chained in Webb's basement and showed severe signs of psychological trauma. Dr. Peterson, what about the scared one in the corner? She hasn't eaten anything since she got here, Emma observed with concern. Dr. Peterson followed Emma's gaze to the border collie mix. That's Luna. She's one of our most challenging cases. She's physically healthy, but so psychologically damaged that she won't interact with humans at all. We're not sure if we'll be able to rehabilitate her enough for adoption. Emma studied Luna carefully, noticing details that the busy staff might have missed. She watches everything that happens in this room, but she only relaxes when there are no people around. I think she's not just scared. She's smart enough to be analyzing whether it's safe to trust anyone. That's a very insightful observation, Emma, Dr. Peterson agreed. What do you think might help her? Emma thought for a moment, then looked at Rex, who was calmly lying near several of the less traumatized dogs. What if Rex spent time near her kennel? Not trying to interact, just being a peaceful presence? Sometimes animals trust other animals before they trust people. Maria nodded approvingly. Rex has been amazing with the other traumatized dogs. Emma, would you like to try working with Luna as a special project? Emma's eyes lit up with excitement and determination. Really? You'd let me try to help her specifically? Under supervision, yes, Dr. Peterson confirmed. But I want you to understand that Luna may never fully recover from her trauma. Some animals carry scars that never completely heal. I understand, Emma replied seriously. But even if she can't be completely healed, maybe she can learn that not all humans are bad. Maybe she can have some happiness and safety, even if it's not perfect. For the next several days, Emma implemented a careful plan to help Luna. She would sit quietly near the kennel, reading aloud from books about dogs, never making direct eye contact or attempting to touch the frightened animal. Rex would lie nearby, providing a calm, non-threatening presence. Gradually, almost imperceptibly, Luna began to show small signs of interest. Her ears would perk up slightly when Emma read stories about dogs who found loving homes. She began to watch Rex more closely, perhaps recognizing that this police dog was confident and unafraid around humans. The breakthrough came on a rainy Thursday afternoon when Emma was reading from a book about a rescue dog who became a therapy animal. Luna, who had been lying with her back to Emma's voice, slowly turned around and made brief eye contact. "Good girl, Luna," Emma whispered softly, not moving from her position. "You're so brave." Dr. Peterson, who had been observing from across the room, felt his eyes fill with tears. In all his years of veterinary practice, he had rarely seen such patient, intuitive work with a traumatized animal, especially from someone so young. Over the following weeks, Luna's progress accelerated. She began taking treats from Emma's hand, allowed brief, gentle touches, and even showed interest in simple toys. Most remarkably, she seemed to form a bond with Rex, often positioning herself near the canine officer when he visited the center. "Emma, Luna's transformation has been remarkable," Dr. Peterson told her one afternoon. "You've accomplished something that our most experienced animal behaviorists weren't sure was possible." Emma beamed with pride, but her expression quickly became thoughtful. "Dr. Peterson, I've been thinking about something. What if Luna could become a therapy dog herself? She understands what it's like to be scared and hurt. Maybe she could help other traumatized animals feel safe." Maria, who had been listening to the conversation, looked impressed by Emma's insight. "Emma, that's actually a brilliant idea. Many therapy animal programs use animals who have overcome their own trauma to help others. It would require extensive training and evaluation," Dr. Peterson cautioned. "But given Luna's progress and her apparent bond with Rex, it might be worth exploring." As Emma sat with Luna and Rex that afternoon, watching the once terrified dog play gently with a rope toy, she realized that her role in this story had evolved far beyond what she had ever imagined. She had started as a witness to cruelty, become a caregiver and advocate, and was now helping to create new possibilities for healing and hope. "Luna, what do you think?" Emma asked the border collie mix, who responded by bringing her the rope toy, the first time the dog had initiated interaction with any human. "Do you want to help other scared dogs learn to trust again?" Luna's tail wagged slightly, and Emma felt certain that this remarkable dog was ready to transform her painful past into a purposeful future helping others heal.